This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
And maybe that's a question you should ask China. Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay?
White House briefing gets testy after reporter asked Trump a question on America's coronavirus testing. Nigeria among African countries expecting samples of Madagascar's herbal medicine against COVID-19. And essential and critical, we hear from Africa's nurses on International Nurses Day. This is Africa Live. A warm welcome. I am Peninah Karibe, also lined up this hour. Nigeria's central bank to manage how foreign investors move their cash out of the country. In sports, South Africa Institute for Drug-Free Sport explores new ideas to combat the doping menace. And we begin with the latest updates on the spread of the coronavirus on the African continent. There are over 66,000 confirmed cases and more than 23,000 recoveries across Africa. According to the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the death toll stands at 2,336. Let's take a look at these figures by region. In North Africa, the infections are above 23,000. Egypt, which has recorded nearly 10,000 cases, has the highest number of confirmed cases in the region, followed by Morocco and Algeria. There are 19,000 cases recorded in West Africa. Nigeria and Ghana have both recorded cases above 4,000. Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo says 22 people have died of coronavirus-related causes, while nearly 500 have recovered. The country has conducted over 160,000 COVID-19 tests since the outbreak. Then in East Africa, the infection rate stands close to 6,500 cases. Sudan and Somalia have the highest cases, which are above the 1,000 mark. In the last 24 hours, Kenya reported 28 new cases, bringing their total number to 700. The country has had 251 recoveries and 33 deaths so far. The Central Africa region has close to 6,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19. The majority of cases are still in Cameroon, which is more than 2,500 infections. And in the Southern African region, there are over 11,000 reported cases. South Africa has over 10,600 of the infections. The country is debating whether to reopen schools. The Education Ministry says Gauteng and Western Cape are the only provinces that have indicated that they are ready to reopen schools. Learning institutions there say they have stocked up on hand sanitizers and face masks as part of the non-negotiables required before pupils return. Meanwhile, Nigeria says it is expecting to receive samples of COVID-19 organics, a herbal medicine used by Madagascar to treat COVID-19 patients. The secretary to the government of the Federation, Bose Mustafa, informed the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 about the samples during a briefing on Monday. Tanzania, Equatorial Guinea, Central African Republic, the Republic of Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Liberia and Guinea-Bissau have all already received thousands of doses free of charge. The WHO has warned against the use of such remedies because they have not been proven to be effective. And joining us now live from Abuja is our correspondent Phil Haza. Phil, are there any details yet on how this herbal remedy from Madagascar will be used once it lands there in Nigeria?
Well, thanks, Peninah. For now, the much details that we have is given by the Presidential Task Force, which is led by the Secretary to the State, to the government, that's Boss Mustafa. He says that once the COVID organic, as it is called, lands in Nigeria, there are agencies like the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, that will, validate the drug, that is test, scrutinize and ensure that it's good enough for use in the country, and also to take a step further to also check that it can be grown in Nigeria. The Health Ministry have also already confirmed that that plant at Tunisia is grown in Nigeria, and which means that if at all it passes that validation process, the country can mass produce, the country can also administer it to COVID-19 patients, which at the moment is nearly almost 5,000 confirmed cases. So at the moment, that's the state of things. We're just hoping that once the drug gets into Nigeria, the validation process will not take so long, and if it is, allowed to be used, it will be used for many Nigerians to recover and, flatten the curve of COVID-19.
There's been a lot of debate, Phil, ever since the president of Madagascar started promoting this herbal remedy for COVID-19. What is the feeling of Nigerians about this tonic?
Well, before now, there's been a lot of debate among Nigerians, as to the drug, the COVID-19 organics produced in Madagascar. But, much of that debate, as in terms of whether it can be used, whether it should be allowed at all into the country, taking for instance Nigeria, has been taken away, especially because the president, Andre Rajoelina, took a dosage of the drug just a few days ago, confirming that it could be used. But then that debate has also been hinged on the WHO concerns that until the drug is, any drug at all, is scrutinized and certified by the organization, it should not be used or sent to different other countries to tackle the COVID-19 disease. So, but that debate in Nigeria, we're looking at 150 deaths. So a lot of people are saying, look, you know what, for now, that's the best case scenario to try to use such a drug. Whatever validation process should be, hastened so that the country can at least have something, to treat the patients with. So that's about the debate. On one side, health concerns. On the other side is the fact that the death toll is rising, and the country needs to get back on its feet economically, politically, and otherwise. And so I'm sure that that's why the Presidential Task Force has ordered for the drug to get into the country, like other nations, Tanzania, Niger, Chad, and the rest. So once it gets to the country and the validation process is achieved, whether or not it will be used, we'll need to wait for the Presidential Task Force and health officials to confirm that.
All right, Phil, thank you for that update. Phil has a live for us in Abuja. Now, the world is marking the International Nurses Day today. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, they have faced many challenges in trying to stop the spread of epidemics like Ebola, measles, and the coronavirus. Some of them have died of those infectious diseases, while others have been killed by militia groups in the country's eastern region. CGTN's Chris Ochamringa has more on that story.
Henri Chimansa is a nurse at a health facility that treats COVID-19 patients in the capital, Kinshasa. He's been taking care of patients suffering from different diseases for a decade. Henri considers nursing an opportunity to serve his community.
I did not become a nurse to make money, but to serve people. Our job is a vocation and a calling that requires us to treat the sick and save humanity.
Health facilities in the DRC have been plagued by underfunding, drug shortages, and a lack of infrastructure. That has discouraged many from joining the profession and affected Henri's morale.
The conditions that we are working in are very tough. Can you imagine that we have not been paid our salaries since the COVID-19 outbreak was reported on the 10th of March? But we keep coming here every day to take care of patients. Some of us even lack protective gear like masks.
The head of this health facility acknowledges the challenges nurses face, but he urges them to keep helping the sick.
This job is full of difficulties, but I call on all nurses to love their profession. Our country has very many epidemics and many patients rely on them for treatment.
The COVID-19 pandemic has made nurses work under a lot of pressure across the globe. But nurses in the DRC are facing a threefold challenge: Ebola, measles, and the coronavirus. Insecurity in the east of the country has also put their lives at risk. The World Health Organization has recorded 300 attacks on health workers battling the Ebola outbreak in the DRC.
A lot of the healthcare services in the DRC are carried out by nurses, especially in remote parts of the country. But many of them work under very difficult circumstances, with some having paid the ultimate price trying to save lives in conflict areas. Chris Sochamringa, CGTN, Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo.
And we have with us today one of the nurses in the front line helping countries deal with COVID-19. Simon Shungwani is the president of the Democratic Nursing Organization of South Africa, and he's joining us live from Johannesburg. Simon, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. The world has been appreciating health workers more than ever since this pandemic began. Tell us, what is it like being a nurse at this time?
Well, thank you for having us. Especially during this time, but also for celebrating International Nurses Day with us. I must say that currently being a nurse feels very strong and powerful because we know that the impact of our work makes a much greater difference in the population. However, we must say that we are also human beings. We are not immune to the COVID-19. Therefore, we feel anxious. There's lots of anxieties that we get from many nurses. However, we appreciate the fact that the community and people worldwide are appreciating the work that we do for the society in general. Many people are improving and getting discharged from hospital because of the impact of our work general. That's how I would like to say thank you very much for those of you who are appreciating our day. But thank you very much to all the nurses out there who has protected lives, who has helped deliver many babies in the world, the wounds that we have dressed in order to heal, and many people that we have managed to get discharged from the hospital. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much.
Well, and Simon, you did mention, of course, the outpouring of appreciation from the world over for the work that you're doing. But I think for a lot of the people, a lot of us, we may not quite understand the struggles that you go through on a daily basis. Talk to us about that, some of the most pressing things that nurses need today.
Well, worldwide, you would know that nurses normally work longest shifts, and the shifts are normally 12 hours. So you wake up long before you start getting to work, and sometimes you walk and also ride a long journey towards work. So it means we as nurses wake up at around 4 a.m. when we know that at 7 a.m. I'm going to start a shift, and we knock off at around 7. This is a 12-hour shift. It's even worse when you are wearing a N95 mask. The breathing is not as normal as you are used to it. So all the time we stress over those issues, but also in our African context, we do have a lot of people with challenges, or many institutions with challenges of PPEs, but over and above that, the conditions of service where we are, some of the areas it's underpaid. We do not feel like we are getting adequate support. We need psychosocial support. Transport is a problem. So it is indeed challenging, but we are soldiering on because we know that the beneficiaries are the vulnerable people who need us the most.
How do you see this pandemic changing the way nurses are viewed and treated going forward?
We think this provides an opportunity, just like a prophecy, for us to be viewed and seen in terms of the actual impact in which nursing as a profession is able to make a difference to humanity globally. So we think there will be a major change going forward.
And you did mention, Simon, a need for nurses to have psychosocial support. I mean, we know that, of course, from the patient's perspectives and their relatives. But do you get it? I mean, how do you deal with the emotions and the burden of seeing people suffer and sometimes pass away?
Well, the fact that currently there's COVID-19 and sometimes we see our colleagues turning positive, we are always anxious and fearful that when am I going to be next? And obviously, we can only cope if we get psychosocial support. Currently, we are thankful to the families that are supporting us, and it is very, very grateful that we are getting that support. We appreciate it. Definitely, we are getting that support from there, but the employers, some of them are not giving it to us, and we're just saying we would like to get that also from our employers. We appreciate the support from our families. Thank you very much.
And we do honor your work, Simon. You and your colleagues, we appreciate you. Thank you very much for talking to us today. That was Simon Shungwani, live for us in Johannesburg. Now, the Zimbabwean government has recruited more nurses to help fight the COVID-19 pandemic. The government lifted a moratorium on employment of public servants to allow the increase in the number of healthcare workers. Here's CGTN's Farai Mokutuya with more details.
89.
This is what Cornelius Makuaza went to school for, but has been unable to do because of a freeze on recruitment at public hospitals. This was due to government cuts in spending. Unemployment hasn't been easy for him.
I can say tough times because, you have to live by the day. So you have to survive. As in my case, I had to pay rent and make sure that I had fed myself. So I was selling clothes. My mother is a cross-border trader, so she brings in some clothes from outside the country, and I could sell from my mates and the community that I live in, just to make ends meet.
He may have successfully paid his bills, but Cornelius had always longed to be where he professionally belonged, in the wards. That's why the call to put the scrubs back on meant so much.
It was so overwhelming, and I was ecstatic, I have to say. And to be called at this kind of time, it really is something which is exciting, because I have to practice what I had learned in the past 3 years.
He's among 326 nurses that have been employed by the Health Service Board, lowering the number of those still jobless to 545. And all of them need not lose hope, because in the wake of COVID-19, the government has taken over the running of several provincial and district hospitals and is setting up isolation facilities across the country, all of which will require additional manpower that will be drawn from the existing database. Despite being cash-strapped, the government has raised the required funds.
This moratorium is only for the health sector, and is based on the availability of resources that are commensurate to the packages that they are entitled to.
Though there are extra hands on deck, there are still gaps that need to be filled, especially the provision of drugs and personal protective equipment, whose unavailability may limit how helpful the new recruits will be in their work. Farai Mwakutuya, CGTN, Harare, Zimbabwe.
With the White House struggling to contain its own outbreak of COVID-19, President Donald Trump has briefed Americans on the state of testing in the U.S. and the push to reopen the economy. Trump says his administration is sending $1 billion to help ramp up testing in states and U.S. territories. CGTN's Nathan King reports from the White House.
Here at the White House, everyone has been told to wear masks when entering the West Wing. That's after two close aides of the president and vice president tested positive for COVID-19, and many top health officials are now self-quarantining. The US president, however, is not wearing a mask. Both he and the vice president are tested for COVID-19 every day. That's not something the rest of the country can expect, but the US president says testing is adequate, expanding, and the federal government is going to help pay for it.
To further expand our nation's testing capabilities, this afternoon I am announcing that my administration is sending $1 billion to America's states, territories, and tribes. So this has all been approved. We've gotten it done, completed. The money is going out. This major investment will ensure that America continues to conduct more tests than any country on earth by far.
With or without adequate testing, states are continuing to open up, with nearly all states partially reopened this week. Even at the epicenter of the COVID outbreak in the United States, New York State is allowing some regions to open up partially on Friday.
It's a new phase, if you will. May 15th is the end of the statewide closure. May 15th is the end of this week. And the question is now going to shift more towards localities and regions across the state.
And here in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States, the mayor is set to extend the stay-at-home order that was set to expire on Friday. Fears are that thousands of returning government workers will lead to a spike in cases. And the question is being asked, if the White House can't control the COVID-19 cases behind these gates, then where else in the United States could do it either? Nathan King, CGTN, Washington.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump abruptly ended Monday's press briefing after a journalist questioned him about whether he views coronavirus testing as a, quote, global competition. He called the question nasty and told her, an Asian American journalist, to, quote, ask China.
Many times that the U.S. is doing far better than any other country when it comes to testing.
Yes.
Why is this a global competition to you if every day Americans are still losing their lives and we're still seeing more cases every day?
Well, they're losing their lives everywhere in the world, and maybe that's a question you should ask China. Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
Sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?
I'm telling you, I'm not saying it specifically to anybody. I'm saying it to anybody that would ask a nasty question like that.
That's not a nasty question.
Please go ahead.
Why does it matter?
Okay, anybody else?
I have 2 questions, Mr.
Next,
President.
please.
You called on me.
I did, and you didn't respond, and now I'm calling on
Sorry, I just
the young lady in the back, please.
I just wanted to let my colleague finish,
Okay.
but can I ask you
Ladies
a
and
question,
gentlemen,
please?
thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're watching Africa Live. We're taking a short break. Coming up. A young Somali mechanical engineer builds a prototype ventilator. And unexpected results. South Africa grapples with increase in violence against women and children during lockdown.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there to see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London, China Global Television Network. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
In other news, Togo and South Africa have both reported an outbreak of African swine fever. In Togo, the swine fever virus was traced to a farm northwest of the capital, Lome. Dozens of pigs have died from the disease since April, while in South Africa, the disease was detected in the Eastern Cape province. The outbreak was discovered after veterinary services conducted tests on dead animals last month. Both countries are implementing control measures that include isolating infected pigs. Swine fever is a severe hemorrhagic disease that mostly affects pigs. The disease has been detected in 50 countries and it's led to a sharp increase in global pork prices. A team of medical experts from China has arrived in Zimbabwe to help the South African nation fight the coronavirus. The group of 12 experts specialize in different medical fields, ranging from respiratory diseases to intensive care, traditional Chinese medicine. Zimbabwe's Minister of Local Government said that the Chinese team will provide valuable help to fight against COVID-19 in the country. The team has also brought a batch of medical supplies donated by Hunan province to Zimbabwe. These supplies include 3 ventilators, nucleic acid testing kits, and medical protective suits. Zimbabwe has so far recorded 37 confirmed COVID-19 cases, 4 deaths and 12 recoveries. The team is led by Zhu Yimin, the Deputy Director of the Health Commission in Hunan province. He said the arrival of the expert group will further enhance the friendship between China and Zimbabwe.
We hope that through the assistance of this expert group and the related protective materials, we can further increase our confidence and strength in the fight against COVID-19. The relevant work of this expert group is not only medical and rescue tasks, but more importantly, strengthening the friendship between China and Zimbabwe.
I'm sure that the delegation led by the chief of the medical team will meet not just scientists, they will also meet policymakers, and their contribution to fighting this pandemic will surely help us all the way. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank the team I hope you enjoy your few hours of being in Zimbabwe.
A young Somali mechanical engineer has built a prototype ventilator. He hopes it will help COVID-19 patients in his country who are grappling with an inadequate healthcare system.
21-year-old Mohammed Adawe is on his way to a hospital in Mogadishu to test out his prototype ventilator. He decided to put his skills to good use when Somalia announced its first COVID-19 death.
I saw in the name of Allah, the situation in the country and the coronavirus is very critical. People are dying of the coronavirus and a lack of oxygen because there are very few ventilators in the country.
We are very proud of him. It gives us a lot of encouragement to see young Somalis trying to do best for their people. Mohammed knew that this was a critical moment for Somali people since we didn't have that much equipment for fighting the coronavirus disease.
Somalia's health system is ill-equipped to fight the virus. There are only 19 ventilators available in a country with a population of approximately 15 million people.
What we need for the time being urgently is to get the medical equipments we have requested several times. Yes, we are getting some, but as I was talking about the testing, PCRs, we need rapid tests, we need ventilators, we need oxygen plants, which is missing in the country, and for all states, because the need in Mogadishu or in Banadar is the same as such of the rest of the countries, of all the states.
My message to the international community is I need help. I could make more than 20 new ventilators that could save the lives of many Somali people. I'm capable of doing so, but I don't have the financial means.
Mohammed's invention may seem basic, but his makeshift machine can save lives. So far, Somalia has 51 COVID-19 deaths, the highest number of fatalities in the region. Chaumhono, CGTN.
Lockdowns mean families all around the world are now stuck together for longer. It's a huge adjustment, especially for fathers who spend most of their days at work. In South Africa, this has led to growing cases of violence against women and children. CGTN's Julie Shire has more.
This is often mum's duty in South Africa, but with dads at home during the lockdown, they're spending more time with their children. Francois Joubert has balanced serious work and school activities with some fun stuff, especially in the morning.
Every morning when we wake up, we do some exercises together here in the house. We do some jumping jacks and sit-ups and push-ups and running on one spot and so forth. And then after that, it's some breakfast and family time. We hit the balls outside. My oldest one and I, she loves a bit of sports.
Creating a routine has been most important to reassure children that things will soon be fine. Ashvir Sankar's daughter is missing her friends and he's trying to fill the void.
I'm still working from home, as you can see. So I try to interact with her as much as possible, but her mom is still there mostly for her, doing her schoolwork for her, helping her during the day. And we just spend our time. When I have time with her, we spend time with PlayStation or watching movies. We love playing games together.
But this reality is absent in many South African homes. The country has one of the highest female murder and domestic violence rates in the world, and women and children are living in fear. A situation that led Jaco van Schalkwyk to found Character Company, a non-profit organization focused on helping young boys become better men.
The challenge is right now is what do I do when I'm stuck in a house with someone that I've been trying to avoid my whole life? That every day when I wake up, my biggest goal is to how do I get out of my house quickly enough? I don't think we're paying enough attention to the women and the children out there that are being abused. And maybe right now, you know, that they are in such an enclosed space that they can't get away.
South Africa's gender-based violence call centre is fielding around 500 to 1,000 calls a day from distressed women, and it may worsen in the coming weeks. Julie Shire, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Coming up in business news. Nigeria's central bank to manage how foreign investors move their cash out of the country. And rising demand for internet spells good tidings for Egyptian telcos. The Nigerian Central Bank says it has put in place policies to ensure foreign investors that want to repatriate funds can exit the country in an orderly manner. Foreign investors have sold Nigerian assets at an accelerated pace since February. This is after lockdowns were enforced to curb the coronavirus pandemic. Economic activity has stalled and the price of oil has crashed, putting pressure on the naira currency and foreign exchange reserves. Nigeria's dollar reserve has declined 24% to $34 billion over the last year. Last week, the central bank weakened the naira currency on the futures market, mostly used by foreign investors to hedge against a fall versus the US dollar by an average of 73 naira across maturities in a signal it expects further depreciation. The Nigerian unit is currently trading at about 390 to the dollar. In South Africa, SA Brewery says it may be forced to destroy more than 130 million litres of beer if it is not allowed to transport the brew to the market. The maker of Castle Lager, Hansa and Black Label has been affected by a ban on the transportation and sale of alcohol in the country under lockdown regulations. The brewer has not made any alcohol since March 23rd or transported any of it since the lockdown in South Africa on March 27th. SAB is not legally allowed to store brewed beer at its brewery facilities above a certain capacity, and that has now been breached. It is currently holding around 132 million litres of beer. That's an equivalent of around 400 million bottles in its tanks. The COVID-19 pandemic has pushed millions of Egyptians to work or study from home. The telecommunications sector has seen a significant increase in demand for its services, including internet provision. It's one of the few sectors that have been thriving under the pandemic. Egypt has more than 95 million registered mobile users. CGTN's Adel Mahroui has more from Cairo.
When the Egyptian government declared a night curfew last March to help curb the COVID-19 pandemic, overnight, demand for internet services spiked. Millions have started using video streaming, online education and work meetings platforms. While businesses were slowing down, the telecom sector was seeing unprecedented traffic.
Before the quarantine until now, I believe there is close to 40% increase in the data consumption and in data traffic. There is an increase of 50 to 60% increase in the usage of our digital interfaces, the digital money, or what we can call the mobile wallet. We have Orange Cash, which is one of our digital money transfer services, which is as well is now seeing a big demand.
After years of investments in networks, Orange Egypt was quite prepared for that data surge. The company was already planning for the next digital consumption wave. The coronavirus pandemic has made that shift to digital platforms even faster.
Demand on data usage, that's one of the big opportunities. Work from home applications on mobile broadband is as well one of the big opportunities. Online education is one of the big things as well, and I think this will continue for a while. And now, when 95% of our employees are working from home, even the customer service is working. I can tell that the whole night shift is now working from home. So this as well, one of the trends that I think it will continue after the COVID-19 impact.
But there have been the downsides too.
We've been definitely impacted by the inbound tourists, and as well we're impacted from the outgoing business travels and so forth. So this is one of the things. Definitely having our shops working with limited hours at the beginning, they're not working in the weekends as well. affecting a bit the growth of the whole economy. So being part of the community, being part of the whole world, we're a bit impacted.
The rise in data consumption has put pressure on networks infrastructure. That will lead to higher services and maintenance costs for cellular towers. Overall, the positive impact COVID-19 has on telecom communication should outweigh the negatives. It's still too early, though, to say how much of an impact the pandemic has on their annual performance. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
Ethiopia's first privately owned information technology hub says it has managed to withstand the negative economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic so far. Gabea Incorporated has received funding from international investors, including an injection of $1 million from the International Finance Corporation. And as CGTN's Coletta Wanjohi reports from Addis Ababa, the company is now assisting other firms in distress.
On a normal day, this training room would be full of people learning IT development. But since March, when the first case of COVID-19 was reported in Ethiopia, Bereket Tafese has been forced to offer his classes virtually. He can take at least 17 students per session. He says some students have to grapple with poor internet connectivity in their homes.
We're recording the sessions. So all the sessions that I present are recorded and stored so that anybody who wants to go back and look at them has the access to. And I think that is one of the pros that's coming out of this virtual teaching is that people can have a record of that class so that they can go back to it and become more efficient.
As COVID-19 threatens companies, Gabea, Ethiopia's first private IT hub, has attracted $2 million from 3 international investors. This is in addition to funding directly from the International Finance Corporation.
In 2019, they granted us $500,000 to train 250 women software developers across Ethiopia. That program has been very successful. To date, we've graduated a little upwards of 54 developers, women developers. So successful in the short amount of time that IFC has just granted us another $500,000 to train both women and men this time.
And as a way of keeping other companies afloat too, it has launched a service it calls COVID Relief Service, targeting companies that are struggling to survive.
For example, some of the companies might be struggling with developing their concept because of the current outbreak. They might not be balancing their work as much as they used to. So we're going to be assisting them in positioning themselves in a better way to actually grow better and then be sustainable.
It wants to offer expertise to startups under 2 years old. Gabea says it is offering free consultation services now to these companies as a way of building business relationships so that in future they will hopefully become business partners. The government is also looking at a nationwide strategy of growing the digital economy.
We've tabled a new fund to the Council. Ministry of Finance has tabled this fund, and that has been announced, and the major implementer would be the Ministry of Innovation and Technology. Yes, we will be very, very supportive of this. And in fact, what this shows is even post-COVID, digital economy is going to be one important source of growth for Ethiopia.
Before COVID-19, the government had begun revising its 15-year-old policy in a bid to digitize the nation's economy. It will need the expertise of developers like these ones to implement this even faster, now that COVID-19 has raised the value of the digital economy. Coletta Wanjohi, CGTN, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
The Tunisian government has now reported no new cases of the coronavirus in 24 hours. The country eased more lockdown measures on Monday, allowing small businesses like salons, barbers and clothing shops to reopen after 2 months of inactivity. Here's CGTN's Adnet Shawashi with the details.
Rafiqa owns a shoes and bags shop in downtown Tunis. She's happy to reopen her business after losing what she says is over 40% of her annual revenue in just 8 weeks. The manager and her employees have respected the strict sanitary measures put in place by the state.
We've been through difficult times that we need to overcome. We are using face masks and hand sanitizers in the boutique. We don't accept any client who does not comply with the safety measures.
I am lucky because my manager paid my salary for the last 2 months, but I know many people who did not make a living during the whole lockdown period.
The number of shoppers on the first day of reopening has been limited. Many people still fear infection despite the decline in the number of new coronavirus cases in the country.
I've come on the first day of the easing of restrictions on shops to buy new clothes and shoes for my kids. I want to avoid congestion and any physical contact with other shoppers.
Muhammad is a 39-year-old barber. He had to pay his rent and bills during the lockdown, even as his shop remained closed.
The state had promised to give us financial assistance while we were unemployed. It's an empty promise, though I'm glad to reopen my shop and to see my clients. I have to rely on myself because the state has other priorities.
Over 500,000 people have been allowed to resume either partial or normal activity from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the second week of the targeted healthy confinement. According to the COVID-19 task force, Tunisians working in the deconfined sectors must comply with the safety measures as defined by the Institute of Health and Safety, which imposes wearing face masks, social distancing, and using hand sanitizers throughout the day. Aden Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
Nigeria generates over 30 million tons of solid waste annually, a big problem for the fast-growing country of almost 200 million people. To cut back on the waste, a green initiative, EcoBata, is teaching women how to turn waste to wealth. CGTN's Deji Badmas explains.
It all begins from here, the sorting of waste nylon collected from around the city of Abuja. After sorting, the nylon is then neatly cut into fine thread, which is then taken to the loom. Hawa Mahmood does wonders with the nylon thread on this floor loom. She's one of the local women trained by EcoBata on the conversion of waste to recyclable products. And now she's making the most of the skill and earning money. After the looming, the end product is usually amazing. They come in the shape of tote bags, school bags, purses, and even shoes. All of them eco-friendly.
I have now, at least I know how to use my waste, how to use it wisely. I don't use plastic bags. I don't waste my plastic bags. At least I can use one plastic bag to go to market 2 times or 3 times, unlike before. Now when I come, I'll just throw it away. I've learned how to make proper use of it.
Since February 2018, EcoBata has empowered 40 other women like Hawa by training them on the eco lifestyle and give them loans to start up their own microgreen enterprises.
At the core of our work, right, is keeping the environment clean and empowering local communities. So turning plastic bags into wealth brought 2 opportunities with it. First, we were transforming waste and clean the environment, and then secondly, we were able to empower women in our community.
EcoBata has so far collected over 200,000 kilograms of solid waste in Abuja alone, including plastic bottles, cans, paper, carton and plastic bags, and turning them into biodegradable and fashionable products. But marketing them has been a challenge they're aiming to solve with technology.
EcoBata recently launched an online mall where we sell strictly eco-friendly products for everyday use, so bamboo products, and so we've leveraged on that platform to sell the materials we make from here.
The eco-friendly enterprise is also milking some of the opportunities from the COVID-19 pandemic by making recyclable face masks for sale.
So what we did was leverage the COVID-19 outbreak to divert our resources into making nose masks. So with the nose masks, we're able to partner with other organizations that were giving them out, and that way the women were able to earn some living from it.
The world is generating more waste than it can recycle, so much that a 2019 World Bank report forecast that waste generation will drastically outpace population growth by more than double by 2050. That's why EcoBata is aiming to institute recycling in every household and influence people to make conscious choices to buy products that are eco-friendly, reusable, recyclable, and biodegradable. Deji Badmas, CGTN, Abuja.
You're watching Africa Live. Coming up after the break, a touch of Africa, the other side of the debate about Madagascar's COVID organics.
the greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Peninah, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
The African nation of Madagascar has been in the news after it produced what it calls a plant-based remedy for COVID-19. The drink has been championed by President Andry Rajoelina despite the World Health Organization warnings that it has not yet been proven to be effective. We feature COVID organics today in our segment Touch of Africa.
Marara ny adidiko aloha zany mapahana be ahy zany dia tena manetana ary manazava ny asarobidin'ity fanafody ity miezaka mandresy lahatra andro mpianatra ireo rehefa misy moa izay sonjo iray moasa mararaka izay voalazanao izay izanona tenenina tsikelikely izy angamba fa mino fa ho resy lahatra ihany izy amin'ny fotoana mahamety azy.
Ny kely any aloha fa vao nahita ny filoham-pirenena tsotra izy dia tsy ny intsony satria masoa matoa omena antsika.
Ahead in sports. South Africa Institute for Drug-Free Sport explores new ideas to combat the doping menace.
How would you create your legend? On the fields, on the tracks, in the arenas of Africa. Were you born to be a player? Could this moment be yours?